Hey book girlies, I'm Sarah.
Hey gamer guys, it's Ian.
And you're listening to a pot of sass and sarcasm. So, play any games recently?
Yeah. So last night, my friends and I were playing more party games. And so we picked up a game called Golf with Your Friends. Or Golf It with Your Friends.
Okay. And what's this one about? Are there chickens and horses and shit?
You'll never believe it.
Is it another platform game?
It's a game about golf.
What? I never would have guessed.
Yeah, we ended up playing this one because there was a lot of us online at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there was like 7 or 8 of us playing.
Wow, you have a lot of friends.
Sometimes.
Okay.
So we ended up playing a couple rounds of 18 holes just to have some fun with it. It's a standard like mini golf type game where the point of view of the camera is the ball itself.
Oh, I hate those.
Or the golf ball itself.
Those are really rough.
Yeah, so you're zoomed out a bit and you control how hard it gets hit and stuff.
I feel like have you watched like YouTubers play this game?
I might have.
I feel like there's that group of YouTubers that do video games and stuff, and they're playing something where it's basically the point of view of the ball, and they've done some really wild stuff, and it's like on. It almost looks like Minecraft though, so I don't know if it's like golf within Minecraft kind of stuff. Is that the same game or no?
No,
but it's similar premise.
You might have seen some of it because a lot of people like to get a hole in one if they can, because it's essentially mini golf.
Right.
But it's on the computer, so it's all wacky and wild.
Of course.
You can change a lot of settings to like have lower gravity and have the ability to jump with the ball. Mm-hmm. One of the courses we played had like jetpacks in it.
On a golf ball?
Yeah. So if you like ran into the power up, you could like click and like go up.
That sounds ridiculous.
It is very ridiculous.
How do you win just by like getting the lowest score?
Yeah, standard golf stuff. Get the lowest strokes into the hole, and then I made us turn on a setting which was collision, so we could hit each other's balls.
Okay, I'm not a 12-year-old. I shouldn't make
I was
that
gonna
joke.
say, keep it in. I see it on your face.
Oh man.
And I made the person who should have won not get first place. That felt really good.
Oh god, of course. Did you hit his ball?
Yep. Like 4 times.
Oh my god. I'm sure he was happy about that.
He was not happy. Because like if you don't make it in the hole in time, you get 14 strokes.
Oh god.
And where most of the time you're getting it in like 3 or 4. Sometimes 8. So it was one where it's like the hole this happened on, like there was an incline with like 4 spots to like take a break, and then there was a big boulder rolling down the middle. So if you got hit by the boulder, it would just knock you back down. So I was on the one right below the top where the hole was, and so if you hit someone's ball before it stops rolling, they go back to where they originally hit it from.
Oh god.
And so if I just hit them really hard and knock myself out of the course, I'll go back to where I just hit them from. And it was so fun.
So your strategy is not necessarily a way to help you win, but it's just to make the whoever was winning not win.
Yeah, pretty much. I had the most strokes every time.
Oh my god. Did you lose? Were you in last place?
Yeah, I was in last place.
Oh, but you were having
I was having the most fun though.
You were having a ball of a time, as it were.
Yeah. I probably could have got a better score because I was getting to the hole like first or second, and then I was just knocking people away.
Wow. You are a menace.
I know. Why do you think I had them turn that setting on?
Why did they let you turn that setting on is the real question. How did they allow that? How do they not know that that's what you're like?
They did. They figured it'd be more fun because it's not targeted on one person. There's 6 other targets at least.
Yeah, but
They're like, maybe I can get past him on this one.
No.
If I play perfectly, he will have the opportunity.
Sure.
I'm just essentially another course hazard.
I feel like you should wear that on a t-shirt. I'm just essentially another course hazard.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that for you. I think that's great. Live your course hazard life dreams.
Mm-hmm. So I was having lots of fun with some party games.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to tell you about my book. I'm just going to stop engaging with you.
How dare.
Quick recap. We are continuing The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. It takes place in 1940s France when the German army invaded France. Isabelle Rossignol and her sister Vienne Mauriac handle the invasion quite differently from each other. They are the polar opposites. Isabelle tries her best to resist, while Vienne is mostly paralyzed and tries to comply, hoping that it's just going to pass and things can go back to normal. When Wolfgang Beck is requisitioned at Vienne's house, the tension becomes palpable, to say the least, especially when Isabelle joins the underground Free French movement to distribute anti-German terrorist papers, as they are known, among the community. Eventually, Henri, who is kind of like the leader of the Caraveau faction of the Free French, sends Isabelle to Paris to continue her work and act as a quote-unquote letterbox for the Free French. This leaves Vienne alone with Captain Beck, who has already been manipulating her and being super weird around her. And while Isabelle is gone, the tension just gets weirder and weirder, and Vienne eventually loses her job as a teacher and is feeling very helpless and unsure of what to do, and Beck kind of takes that as another opportunity to manipulate her, and that's kind of where we left off. It's kind of on this cliffhanger of he tried one more time to manipulate her before he left to supposedly go home, and then we cut back to Isabelle, who is trying to convince her dad to let her stay with him, and he agrees as long as she gets a job and stays out of trouble. Isabelle finds out, though, that he is working for the German High Command, and she's kind of disgusted by that, and she's very judgy, saying, like, how could you after what they did to you in the First World War? This is crazy. But she's at least happy about the fact that she's like, I did it. I'm here. I'm in Paris. I am doing what I set out to do. And so now it's time for her to get like her super secret spy stuff on. And so that's where I'm at in the book. The bookshop had once been a gathering place for poets and writers and novelists and academics. Isabelle's best childhood memories took place in these musty rooms. While Papa had worked in the back room in his printing press, Mama had read Isabelle stories and fables and made up plays for them to act out. They had been happy here for a time, before Mama took sick and Papa started drinking. Now it was Germans who crowded into the shadowy nooks and crannies. In the 6 weeks since Isabelle had reopened the shop, word had apparently spread among the soldiers that a pretty French girl could be found often at the shop's counter. They arrived in a stream, dressed in their spotless uniforms, their voices loud as they jostled one another. Isabelle flirted with them mercilessly, but she made sure never to leave the shop until it was empty, and she always left by the back door, wearing a charcoal cloak with the hood drawn up, even in the heat of summer. The soldiers might be jovial and smiling, boys really, who talked of pretty Fräuleins back home and bought French classics by acceptable authors for their families, but she never forgot that they were the enemy. So one day she was in the shop, and she noticed that Anouk was there, browsing. So obviously Anouk is there to give Isabelle a message, or her next mission, basically, her next assignment. And after receiving this message, Isabelle carried on as usual, closed up her shop by 6 p.m., and left the store out the back. You know, she's trying not to make it obvious, but, you know. Isabelle watched the clock, willing time to advance. At precisely 6 p.m., she herded the soldiers out of the bookshop and closed up for the night. Leaving her bicycle in the shop, she decided to ignore the crowded, depressingly silent metro and walked home, enjoying the greasy, salty frites on her way. Everywhere she looked, Germans were pouring into cafes and bistros and restaurants, while the ashen-faced Parisians hurried to be home before curfew. Twice along the way, she had a niggling sense that she was being followed, but when she turned, there was no one behind her. It was her nerves working overtime. Her heart started pounding. Fear made her perspire. The musky, sour scent of it mingled with the greasy odor of the frites, and for a moment, her stomach tilted uncomfortably. Everything was fine. No one was following her. She was being foolish. She turned onto Rue de Grenelle. Something caught her eye, made her stop. Up ahead, she saw a shadow where there shouldn't be a shadow. Movement where it should be still. Frowning, she crossed the street, picking her way through the slow-moving traffic. On the other side, she moved briskly past the clot of Germans drinking wine in the bistro toward an apartment building on the next corner. There, Hidden in the dense shrubbery beside an ornate set of glossy black doors, she saw a man crouched behind a tree in a huge copper urn. She opened the gate and stepped into the yard. She heard the man scramble backward, his boots crunching on the stones beneath him. Then he stilled. Isabelle could hear the Germans laughing at the cafe down the street. It was the supper hour. The 1 hour of the day when all the enemy cared about was entertainment and stuffing their stomachs with the food and wine that belonged to the French. She crept over the potted lemon tree. The man was squatted down, trying to make himself as small as possible. Dirt smeared his face, and one eye was swollen shut, but there was no mistaking him for a Frenchman. He was wearing a British flight suit. Mon Dieu, she muttered. Anglais? English? His eyes widened. She could see him trying to decide whether to trust her. Very slowly, he nodded. Isabelle knew she needed to question him, but there wasn't time. Every second she stood here with him, the danger to both of them increased. It was amazing that the Brit hadn't been caught already. She needed to either help him or to walk away before any attention was drawn. Certainly walking away was the smart move. 57 Avenue de la Bourdonnais, she said quietly in English. That's where I am going. In 1 hour, I will go out for a cigarette. You come to the door then. If you arrive without being seen, I will help you. You understand me? How do I know I can trust you? She laughed at that. This is a foolish thing I am doing. And I promise not to be so impetuous. Well, she pivoted on her heel and left the garden area, clanging the gate behind her. She hurried down the street, all the way home. Her heart was pounding and she was second-guessing her decision. But there was nothing to do about it now. She didn't look back, not even at her apartment building. There, she stopped and faced the big brass knob in the center of the oak door. She felt dizzy and headachy. She was so scared. She fumbled with the key in the lock and twisted the knob and surged into the dark, shadowy interior. Inside, the narrow lobby was crowded with bicycles and hand carts. She made her way to the base of the winding staircase and sat at the bottom step, waiting. She looked at her wristwatch 1,000 times, and each time she told herself not to do this. But at the appointed time, she went back outside. Night had fallen. With the blackout shades and unlit street lamps, the street was as dark as a cave. Cars rumbled past, unseen without their headlamps on, heard and smelled, but invisible unless an errant bit of moonlight caught them. She lit her brown cigarette, took a deep drag, and exhaled slowly, trying to calm herself. I'm here, miss. Isabelle stumbled backward and opened the door. Stay behind me, eyes down. Not too close. She led him through the lobby, both of them banging into bicycles, clanging them, rattling the wooden carts. She had never run up the 5 flights of stairs faster. She pulled him into the apartment and slammed the door shut behind him. Take off your clothes, she said. Pardon me? She flicked on the light switch. He towered over her. She saw that now. He was broad-shouldered and skinny at the same time, narrow-faced, with a nose that looked like it had been broken a time or two. His hair was so short it looked like fuzz. Your flight suit. Take it off. Quickly. What had she been thinking to do this? Her father would come home and find the airmen and turn them both into the Germans. Where would she hide his flight suit? And those boots were a dead giveaway. He bent forward and stepped out of his flight suit. She had never seen a grown man in his undershorts and a t-shirt before. Then she felt her face flush. No need to blush, miss, he said, grinning as if it were ordinary. She yanked his suit into her arms and held out her hand for his identification tags. He handed them over. Follow me, quickly. What's the word on the edge of your toes? Tiptoes, he whispered. She led him to her bedroom. There, slowly, gently, she pushed the armoire out of the way and revealed the secret room. A row of glassy doll eyes stared back at her. That's creepy, miss, he said. And it's a small space for a big man. Get in. Stay quiet. Any untoward sound could get us searched. Madame Leclerc next door is curious and could be a collaborator, you understand? Also, my father will be home soon. He works for the German High Command. Blimey. She had no idea what that meant, and she was sweating so profusely her clothes were starting to stick to her chest. What if I have to, he asked. Hold it. She pushed him into the room, giving him, oh my gosh, sorry, I'm laughing too hard. She pushed him into the room, giving him a pillow and blanket from her bed. I'll come back when I can. Quiet, oui? He nodded. Thank you. So, great job at staying out of trouble, she is.
I thought this was part of her assignment.
No, this had nothing to do with her assignment. Then she just happened to see him. I mean, I guess it could have been part of her assignment. It wasn't. She just was like, shit. She saw this and was like, I guess I'm going to make this decision to do this. And she is. The reason she has a secret room, by the way, it's not like it was specially made for this. Mm-hmm. When she first was coming to her father. She was like, this is my home and I belong here. I want to stay here. And one of her, like, I guess points or her arguments was she was like, I bet there's still lipstick on the wall from when I drew on it and when mom wasn't looking. And I bet that if you look in that secret compartment in my room, that all my dolls are still going to be standing there because that's what I used to do with that little secret room. So she's always had this little secret room in her bedroom. And so it's not like this was made specially for hiding people. It's always been there. And yeah, but I love the what's the word, on the edge of your toes. And I love the cute little interactions that they have with each other. It's just kind of, it's such a serious thing that she's doing. It's scary, it's dangerous, but it's also just kind of like, there's that little kind of comedic relief that I feel like is necessary in this book, especially because there's so many heavy scenes that this is just kind of funny of just, what's the word, on the edge of your toes. And then he's like, blimey, like your dad works for the German high command and your neighbor might be a collaborator and you're, oh gosh, yeah. So
he's like, I might have been safer on the street.
Pretty much. So she beats herself up a little bit after he goes in there. And she's like, oh my God, this was so stupid. This was a very dangerous game for her to play. And then she goes to dispose of his clothes and ID tag, deciding that the river was the safest option because she didn't want anyone else to get in trouble, because she's like, if I put these in anybody's trash bin and they're searched for whatever reason, they're going to find these British airman clothes and they're going to get in trouble for boarding somebody who's not actually there.
Almost like you could just leave it in an alley anywhere.
Right. And so she's like, I don't know. And so she goes to, I'm assuming it's the Thames because that's what goes through Paris, I think.
The Seine.
The Seine.
I was like, the Thames is in Germany, I thought. River Thames. Let me look that up. River Thames is in England.
Okay. So the Seine is the one that's in Paris, right?
Yeah, the Seine is in France.
Okay. So she decided to throw all of his stuff into the Seine, I'm assuming. It just says the river, but I'm assuming it's the Seine. And the entire way that she was walking to the river and on her way back, she felt like someone was following her, but she kept convincing herself that she was just paranoid. She is out late at this point. It's dark out, and I think it's technically after curfew. Barely, though, by like a couple minutes kind of thing. And so when she did finally arrive back home, she found her father waiting for her, and he scolds her for being late. And then he hears something coming from her room and he's like, what's that? And he goes to investigate and she's like, it's nothing, Papa. And he's like, do you have somebody here? And she's like, no, of course not. No. He's like, Isabelle, don't be playing games with me. This isn't funny. And she's like, why would I have somebody here? There are no boys here, remember? There's nobody for me to party with. And he's like, Isabelle. And she's like, I swear, Dad, nobody's here. You're paranoid. Gosh, you're crazy. You're hearing stuff.
You're hearing stuff, like, just, old man.
Just gaslights the shit out of him.
He's like, have you already been drinking, Papa?
Yeah, pretty much. And then he's like, fine, whatever. And he goes to bed and she's like, night, bye. You're late, he said harshly. She noticed the brandy bottle on the table. It was half empty. Yesterday it had been full. How was it that he always found his brandy? The Germans wouldn't leave. She moved toward the table and put several franc notes down. Today was a good day. I see your friends at the High Command giving you more brandy. The Nazis do not give much away, he said. Indeed, so you have earned it. A noise sounded. Something crashed into the hardwood floor, maybe. What was that? Her father said, looking up. Then came another sound, like a scraping of wood on wood. Someone is in the apartment, Papa said. Don't be absurd, Papa! He rose quickly from the table and left the room. Isabelle rushed after him. Papa! Hush! He hissed. He moved down the entryway, into the unlit part of the apartment. At the Bombay chest near the front door, he picked up a candle in a brass holder and lit it. Surely you don't think someone has broken in, she said. He threw her a harsh, narrow-eyed look. I will not ask you to be silent again. Now hold your tongue. His breath smelled of brandy and cigarettes. But why? Shut up! Telling your daughter to shut up. I'm sorry. That is... Okay.
Like, shut up, you idiot.
He turned his back on her and moved down the narrow, slanted floor hallway toward the bedrooms. He passed the minuscule coat closet, nothing but coats inside, and followed the candle's quavering path into Vianne's old room. It was empty, but for the bed and nightstand and writing desk. Nothing was out of place in here. He got slowly to his knees and looked under the bed. Satisfied at last that the room was empty, he headed for Isabelle's room. Could he hear the pounding of her heart? He checked her room, under the bed, behind the door, behind the floor-to-ceiling curtains that framed the blacked-out courtyard window. Isabelle forced herself not to stare at the armoire. "See?" she said loudly, hoping the airman would hear her voice and sit still. "No one is here. Really, Papa? Working for the enemy is making you paranoid." He turned to her. In the corona of the candlelight, his face looked haggard and worn. "It wouldn't hurt you to be afraid, you know." Was that a threat? Of you, Papa? Or of the Nazis? "Are you paying no attention at all, Isabelle? You should be afraid of everyone. Now get out of my way. I need a drink." So, the next day, Isabelle's like, "I gotta get this guy out of here. This is not gonna work."
Couldn't even be still and quiet. What a fucking dickhead. Gotta get this English fucker out of here.
Pretty much. So after her dad leaves for work in the morning, she goes and opens up the armoire. And, basically here's what goes on. Inside, it was dark and quiet. Only when she listened intently did she hear him breathing. "Monsieur," she whispered. "Hello, miss," came at her from the dark. I love how, cute and polite he is.
He's been curled up in a tiny little...
He's just, been folded up like an accordion, just like, yeah.
He's like, "Hey." He goes, "Yes."
She lit the oil lamp by her bed and carried it into the space. He was sitting against the wall with his legs stretched out. In the candlelight, he seemed softer somehow. Younger. The secret room smelled of sweat and piss so much that she had to clamp her hand over her nose and mouth as she gagged.
She's like, "God, this guy is stinky."
"Sorry, miss," the pilot said sheepishly. "Put these on. Wash up at the pitcher and meet me in the salon. Put the armoire back. Move quietly. People are downstairs. They may know my father is gone and expect only one person to be walking around up here." Moments later, he stepped into the kitchen, dressed in her father's cast-offs. He looked like a fairy tale boy who'd sprouted overnight. The sweater strained across his broad chest, and the corduroy pants were too small to button at them. Sorry, I don't remember this. That's so funny.
Looked like a magical boy.
He looked like a fairy tale boy who'd sprouted overnight. The sweater strained across his broad chest, and the corduroy pants were too small to button at the waist. He was wearing the beret flat on the crown of his head, as if it were a yarmulke. This was never going to work. How would she get him across town in broad daylight? "I can do this," he said. "I'll follow along behind you. Trust me, miss. I've been walking around in that flight suit. This is easy." It was too late to back out now. She'd taken him in and hidden him. Now she needed to get him someplace safe. "Walk at least a block behind me. If I stop, you stop. If I get pinched, you keep walking. Don't even look back." Pinched must mean arrested. She went to him, adjusted his beret, and set it at a jaunty angle. Her gaze held his. "Where are you from, Lieutenant?" "Ipswich, miss. You'll tell my parents, if necessary?" "It won't be necessary, Lieutenant." She drew in a deep breath. He had reminded her again of the risk that she'd undertaken to help him. The false papers in her handbag, identifying her as Juliette Gervais. Sorry, I have to figure out how the sentence is supposed to be said because there's cuts in the middle of it. The false papers in her handbag, identifying her as Juliette Gervais, were the only protection she had if the worst happened. She went to the front door, opened it, and peered out. The landing was empty. She shoved him out, saying, "Go, stand outside by the milliner's empty shop, then follow me." He stumbled out of the apartment, and she closed the door behind him. 1, 2, 3. She counted silently, imagining trouble with every step. When she could stand it no more, she left the apartment and went down the stairs. All was quiet. She found him outside, standing where he'd been told to. She lifted her chin and walked past him without a glance. So, a couple things. Number one, her papers, her false identity, this Juliette Gervais, is really important because I don't know if you remember the old woman, but in the very first chapter, when the book is opened up, she's going into her attic to find that trunk of all of her stuff. And in that trunk, she found a picture that said Juliette Gervais. And she had said something about that was a name that she hadn't heard in a long time. So I am 99.999999999% sure that I was right this whole fucking time that Isabelle is the old woman. Because why else would the old woman have that identification card, basically?
Yeah. I'm not too terribly surprised, but it's nice to have
that confirmation.
Confirmation.
So I was like, when I got to that part, I was like, oh, Juliette Gervais. It's all coming together now. I know exactly who this is, and I was right, and I just felt very vindicated. So anyway, so she takes him to the Free French place, because when she first got there, they had brought in British airmen, and so she knows that they are trying to help the British airmen that they find throughout the city. And she's like, I didn't know what else to do. Like, I saw him and I felt like I had to help. And they're like, what the fuck, Isabelle? This is not your job. And she's like, I know. I'm not trying to be impetuous. I am not trying to be impulsive. But, like, I felt like I needed to help him. Can we help him? And they're like, I guess we'll figure it out.
They were able to help that other guy, no problem. But this is an issue now.
Yeah.
Like, that's not your job. Was it supposed to come back here and get one of you guys to help him instead?
By the time she reached the red door at the apartment, she was sweating and a little lightheaded. She knocked 4 times in rapid succession. The door opened. Anouk appeared at the slit of an opening. Surprise widened her eyes. She opened the door and stepped back. What are you doing here? Behind her, several of the men Isabelle had met before were seated around tables, with maps set out in front of them, pale blue linens illuminated by the candlelight. Anouk started to shut the door. Isabelle said, leave it open. Tension followed her directive. She saw it sweep the room, change the expressions around her. At the table, Monsieur Levy began putting the maps away. Isabelle glanced outside and saw the lieutenant coming up the walkway. He stepped into the apartment and she slammed the door shut behind him. No one spoke. Isabelle had their full attention. I found him hiding in the bushes near my apartment last night. And you brought him here? Anouk said, lighting a cigarette. He needs to get back to Britain, Isabelle said. I thought, no, Anouk said. You did not. Livy sat back in his chair and pulled a cigarette from his breast pocket and lit it up, studying the airmen. There are others that we know of in the city, and more who escaped German prisons. We want to get them out, but the coasts and the airfields are all sewn up tight. He took a long drag on the cigarette. The tip glowed and crackled and blackened. It is a problem we have been working on. I know, Isabelle said. She felt the full weight of her responsibility. Had she acted rashly again? Were they disappointed in her? She didn't know. She was about to ask a question until she heard someone talking in another room. Frowning, she said, who else is here? Others, Levy answered. Others are always here. We need a plan for the airmen. It is true, Anouk said. We believe we could get them out of Spain, Levy said, if we could get them into Spain. So basically, Isabelle's like, what about the mountains? Couldn't we just like hike over the mountains and stuff like that? And they're like, well, we've sort of tried to let people go there, but like nobody's come back every time that we've sent people over the mountains. And she's like, well, I'm a pretty young girl that nobody's ever gonna suspect of anything. What if I made the hike? And what if I basically guided these British pilots over the mountains into Spain, and then we could get them out through Spain like you guys have been planning? And they're like, that would be really risky, Isabelle. And she's like, I'm aware. I know it's really risky to do this.
At the same time, they're like, you're our letterbox gathering basic intel out of your shop.
The border with Spain is guarded by both German and Spanish patrols, Anouk said. The whole border? Isabelle asked. Well, no, of course not, Levy said. But where they are and where they aren't, who knows? The mountains are smaller near Saint-Jean-de-Luz, Isabelle pointed out. Oui, but so what? They are still impassable and the few roads are guarded, Anouk said. My mama's best friend was a Basque whose father was a goat herder. He crossed the mountains on foot all the time. We have had this idea. We even tried it once, Levy said. None of the party was heard from again. Getting past the German sentries at Saint-Jean-de-Luz is hard enough for one man, let alone several. And then there's the actual crossing of the mountains on foot. It's nearly impossible. Nearly impossible and impossible are not the same thing. If goat herders can cross the mountains, certainly airmen can do it, Isabelle said. And as she said it, an idea came to her. And a woman could move easily across the checkpoints, especially a young woman. No one would suspect a pretty girl. Anouk and Levy exchanged a look. I will do it, Isabelle said. Or try, anyways. I'll take this airman. And are there others? Monsieur Levy frowned. Obviously, this turn of events surprised him. Cigarette smoke clouded blue-gray between them. And you have climbed mountains before? I'm in good shape, was her answer. And also, I'm like, she did hike, basically, from Paris to Caraveau at the beginning of this. Like, it's, like, not the same as mountain climbing, but I'm like, she walked a very far way. So
dodging plane bombs.
Yeah, so I'm like, if anyone can do it, she can
I
do
don't
it.
know why I specified plane bombs.
I was just going to leave it, but like, okay. I'm in good shape, was her answer. If they catch you, they'll imprison you. Or kill you, he said quietly.
Or worse.
Put your impetuousness aside for a moment and think on that, Isabelle. This is not handing over a piece of paper. You have seen the signs posted all over town. Isabelle nodded earnestly. Anouk sighed heavily, stabbing out her cigarette in the overflowing ashtray. She gazed at Isabelle a long time, eyes narrowing. Then she walked to the door behind the table. She pushed the door open a little and whistled, gave a trilling little bird call. Isabelle frowned. She heard something in the other room, a chair pushing back from a table. Footsteps. Gaëtan stepped into the room.
I fucking knew it. I was about to say it. Watch us be that fucker.
He came back. I've been wondering if he was coming back.
He escaped to the countryside with her and then went all the way back to Paris as well.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I was like, why introduce a character and then not bring them back?
Yeah, other than to just kind of like, at first I was like, well, maybe it's just to show that she's young and naive and that she'll fall in love with anybody kind of thing. But then, you know, when Henri kissed her, she was like, there's someone else, but he didn't want me and whatever. And now she, oh my gosh, and I get all a little flutter of love.
There goes my thought of maybe she married an American and had a son.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still time.
I mean, there is
he
still
might
time.
die.
You know, it is.
If she's sorry, I'm gonna cut you off here. If she's actually gonna go climb over the mountains, that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I was kind of excited for a bunch of chapters of espionage, but I guess
no espionage for you.
No espionage.
No. I'm interested to see where this story is going, though, because this is about the halfway point, pretty close to it. And like, just it's never going where I think it's going, because like I thought that maybe this whole book would have been her being stuck in Caraveau, and then she moves to Paris, and then she's in Paris for several chapters, and then now she's being kind of moved into being that person that is helping people cross the mountains, which makes sense though for if she is the old woman, which she is.
Yeah, I mean, but it also makes sense that she would find people in the city and bring them someplace.
Right. But I think because the old woman got that invitation specifically for like that reunion of people who helped people, like I think it had to be more of a risk than just hide. I thought it was maybe that she hid people or something like that. And maybe she does. But the fact that she is literally physically the person who is helping them cross the border, I think is...
I mean, you can definitely be more than recognized for just hiding someone in the city.
Right. I don't know.
Yeah, I figured it'd be like a cat and mouse type thing. Like, oh, I found this new information. I'm going to leverage my dad. I'm going to do all this other stuff. But no, I guess, yeah, I was a little let down.
Isabelle frowned. She heard something from the other room. A chair pushing back from the table. Footsteps. Gaëtan stepped into the room. He was dressed shabbily in corduroy pants that were patched at the knees and ragged at the hem and a little too short, in a sweater that hung on his wiry frame, its collar pulled out of shape. His black hair, longer now, in need of cutting, had been slicked back from his face, which was sharper, almost wolf-like. He looked at her as if they were the only two in the room. In an instant, it was all undone. The feelings she'd discounted, tried to bury, to ignore, came flooding back. One look at him, and she could barely breathe. "You know Gate," Anouk said. Isabelle cleared her throat. She understood that he'd known she was here all along, that he'd chosen to stay away from her. For the first time since she'd joined this underground group, Isabelle felt keenly young, apart. Had they all known about it? Had they laughed about her naivete behind her back? "I do." "So," Levy said after an uncomfortable pause, "Isabelle has a plan." Gaëtan didn't smile. Does she? So they spend the rest of the day discussing and fine-tuning this plan. Apparently they spent 6 hours here. And Several times throughout this planning stage, Gaetan, Anouk, and Levy all tried to make sure that Isabelle is aware of the risk. They're like, are you sure you want to do this, Isabelle? Are you sure that you can do this? You're risking a lot. If you are caught, it's more than just going to be imprisonment for you. It's going to be really, really, really bad. And at the same time, while they're trying to remind her of the risks, they're not exactly trying to talk her out of it either. They just want to make sure that she's not going to, chicken out of it. Because whether they like it or not, they do need her to do this. And it has a little bit more promise than any other plan that they've tried for getting these airmen out of France. So after a little while, Gaetan left the discussions because he needed to go talk to his contact to get this airman that Isabelle brought some false papers, because that is one thing that they have. Isabelle has a new identity. She goes by Juliette Gervais, which is why we're pretty sure that she's the old woman from earlier chapters. But so Gaetan's like, well, okay, I gotta go talk to my contact and get you some false papers for this airman. And so Gaetan and Isabelle have another moment of their eyes meeting as he leaves. And then finally, Isabelle is no longer distracted and puts all of her effort into making plans. And then after about 6 hours of discussions and planning, Isabelle starts making her way home. They did try to say like, hey, you could spend the night here. And she's like, nope, my dad's going to be suspicious. He had ground rules. I have to be back by curfew always, without exception. That's something that I have to do. She doesn't want to make her dad suspicious. And so she doesn't want to be late for curfew. So she's like, no, I got to go. The boulevard was eerily quiet, shutters closed tightly and blacked out, street lamps dark. She kept close to the buildings, crept past barricades and around groups of German soldiers patrolling the streets. She was almost home when she heard an engine growling. A German lorry shambled up the street behind her, its blue-painted headlights turned off. She pressed flat against the rough stone wall behind her, and the phantom lorry rolled past, grumbling in darkness. Then everything was silent again. A bird whistled, a trilling song, familiar. Isabelle knew that she'd been waiting for him, hoping. Isabelle, Gaetan said. She could barely make out his features in the dark, but she could smell the pomade in his hair, the rough scent of his laundry soap, and the cigarette that he'd smoked some time ago. How did you know I was working with Paul? Who do you think recommended you? She frowned. Henri. And who told Henri about you? I had Didier following you from the beginning, watching over you. I knew you would find your way to us. He reached out, tucked the hair behind her ears, and the intimacy of the act left her parched with hope. She remembered saying, I love you, and shame and loss twisted her up inside. She didn't want to remember how he'd made her feel, how he'd carried her when she was too tired to walk, how he'd showed her how much one kiss could matter. I'm sorry that I hurt you, he said. Why did you? It doesn't matter now, he sighed. I should have stayed in the back room today. It's better not seeing you. Not for me, he smiled.
He said it's better not seeing you?
Yes.
Okay. He's like, you're distracting as hell.
You're so hot, Isabelle. I should have stayed in that back room today. It's better not seeing you. Not for me, he smiled. You have a habit of saying whatever's on your mind, don't you, Isabelle? Always. Why did you leave me? He touched her face with a gentleness that made her want to cry. It felt like a goodbye, that touch. And she knew goodbye. I wanted to forget you. She wanted to say something more. Maybe kiss me, or don't go, or say I matter to you. But it was already too late. The moment, whatever it was past. He was stepping away from her, disappearing into the shadows. He said softly, be careful, Is. And before she could answer, she knew he was gone. She felt his absence in her bones. So for me, this feels a little bit like foreshadowing, and I'm getting very nervous because I'm nervous that they're never going to see each other again. And I'm nervous that maybe he dies. And the other thing that I'm nervous about is that in the last time that we heard from the old woman, she had mentioned that she had killed a man and that there was a man that she should have killed. And I'm really worried that Gaetan is one of those men.
No, I don't know. We are probably going to see him again just because of the fact that this is a book. I think we won't see him for a couple chapters.
Oh, we definitely won't. Because this is chapter like 16 or something. And I'm already in chapter 20 and we don't see him for that entire time.
Yeah. So this is a goodbye for now.
Yes. The other thing that I'm wondering is I am very curious because we've been like, we think that Isabelle is the old woman at the end of the story, but I'm actually wondering if maybe somebody like Anouk is the old woman because she would have heard the name Juliette Gervais. She knew Isabelle, and all that kind of stuff. And she and Isabelle have actually seemed to have gotten pretty close over these couple of months. So I'm wondering, just because of where I am in the book is about halfway, and it makes me really nervous. I'm worried that maybe Isabelle dies.
Yeah, she might.
Which would be horrible because she's the main character. I don't know. I'm just getting very nervous because Isabelle's new assignment is very dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm nervous if we find out anything more from the old woman about like what happened, and if we can get any more clues as to who the old woman is, whether it's Isabelle or Anouk. It just scares me. So anyways, Isabelle eventually gets home, and her dad was waiting for her, and he started scolding her for being late because she did end up showing up after curfew because, god damn it, Gaetan, stopping her in an alleyway, like, how dare you?
She was like, it was 5 minutes.
But he said that you will come home on time, before curfew and everything like that, and she was late.
I was in the building.
And she tries to give him a nonchalant excuse. She's like, oh, the Germans at the bookshop kept me late. They wouldn't leave and stuff like that. And he's like, I call bullshit. Her dad knows what's up. Come with me, he said, his voice raspy and sharp, unrecognizable this time of night without a slur. He led her down past the closet and around the corner into her room. Inside, he turned to look at her. Behind him, in the lamp's glow, she saw the moved armoire and the door to the secret room ajar. The smell of urine was strong. Thank God the airman was gone. So that's...
So she didn't clean it.
She didn't... Well, because she didn't have time. She was like, okay, as soon as her dad was out, she took the airman out of the house and then spent the next 6 hours there. She didn't stop once to come home to, like, clean up before he got home. So he gets home and is like, the fuck is this? Because remember last time he was very paranoid because he heard the airman and he was like, what the fuck is going on? Inside, he turned to look at her. Behind him in the lamp's glow, she saw the moved armoire and the door to the secret room ajar. The smell of urine was strong. Thank God the airman was gone. Isabelle shook her head, unable to speak. He sank to sit on the edge of her bed, bowing his head. Christ, Isabelle, you are a pain in the ass. She couldn't move or think. She glanced at the bedroom door, wondering if she could make it out of the apartment. It was nothing, Papa. It was a boy, a date. We were kissing, Papa. And do all of your dates piss in the closet? You must be very popular then, he sighed. Enough of this charade. Charade? You found an airman last night and hid him in the closet, and today you took him to Monsieur Levy. Isabelle could not have heard correctly. Pardon? Your downed airman. The one who pissed in the closet and left dirty boot prints in the hallway. You took him to Monsieur Levy. I don't know what you mean. Good for you, Isabelle. When he fell silent, she couldn't stand the suspense. Papa? I know you came here as a courier for the underground, and that you were working with Paul Levy's network. How? Monsieur Levy is an old friend of mine. In fact, when the Nazis invaded, he came to me and pulled me out of the bottle of brandy that was all I cared about. He put me to work. Isabelle felt so unsteady. She couldn't stand. It was too intimate to sit by her father, so she sank slowly to the carpet. I didn't want you involved in this, Isabelle. That's why I sent you from Paris in the first place. I didn't want to put you at risk with my work. I should have known you'd find your own way to danger. She didn't know what to think or feel. Better to change the subject. I'm planning something. I'll be gone for a while. He looked down at her. I know. I've spoken to Paul. He was silent for a long moment. You know your life changes right now. You will have to live underground. Not here with me, not with anyone. You will not be able to spend more than a few nights in any one place. You will trust absolutely no one. And you will not be Isabelle Rossignol anymore. Not at all. You will be Juliette Gervais. The Nazis and the collaborators will always be searching for you. And if they find you... Isabelle nodded. A look passed between them. In it, Isabelle felt a connection that had never existed before. The name you are looking for is Micheline Babineau, your mama's friend. Her husband was killed in the Great War. I think she would welcome you. And tell Paul I will need photographs immediately. Photographs? Of the airman. At her continued silence, he finally smiled. Really, Isabelle? Have you not put the pieces together? I forge papers. That's why I work at the High Command. I began by writing the very tracks you distributed in Caraveau, but it turns out that the poet has a forger's hand. Who do you think gave you the name Juliette Gervais? But you believe I collaborated with the enemy. I can hardly blame you. In him, suddenly, she saw someone foreign. A broken man where a cruel, careless man had always stood. She dared to rise up, to move toward him, to kneel in front of him. She stared up at him, feeling hot tears glaze her eyes. Why did you push me and Vienne away? I hope you never know how fragile you are, Isabelle. I'm not fragile, she said. The smile he gave her was barely one at all. We are all fragile, Isabelle. That's the thing we learn in war. And I think that's probably a good spot to stop.
It is a good spot to stop.
Did you see that one coming? That he's a forger?
I can't say I saw it coming. I figured he'd be up to something since he was so against them fucking with his books.
Yeah, he did make a big stink. I mean, he was like, I'm going to close down the shop if they're going to tell me what to sell. But then when she was reopening the shop, he did make a pretty big stink being like, you can't touch that back room. That back room is mine. And she's like, what's that about? Like, are you hosting lady friends there? And he was like, shut the fuck up, Isabelle.
That's where his forging equipment is.
Yeah.
I had a feeling he was doing something with that back room.
Yeah. I kind of love that, you know, because Isabelle has been this very loudly rebellious, like she can't keep her mouth fucking shut to save her life. Literally, when she was living with a Nazi and her life depended on her silence, and not just her life, but her sister's life and her niece's life, she could not do it. Mm-hmm. And so she's been this very loudly rebellious character, which I love. But seeing her dad being quietly rebellious and doing things that everybody else, like from the outside looking in, will look at him and judge him, be like, how can you work for the German high command and blah, 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 blah. But it's like, it's a very, like, it's a power move that he's got, but he can't say anything to contradict what people think. Mm-hmm. Because then the point of it is just gone. And it's the same kind of thing, like that same thing happened to Isabelle when she was moving back to Paris. She told Vienne it was because she was going to go see a boy, and Vienne believed her. And Isabelle was so hurt by that. She was like, okay, that you really believe that's what I'm doing this for? And Vienne's like, yeah, why wouldn't I? And she's like, ouch, that hurts. And I can't tell you that you're wrong. Like, I would much rather you believe that this is why I'm doing this. But like, I'm doing something so important and nobody knows. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what her father's been going through too. I'm curious about where this is going to go. What did we learn today?
I learned that if you keep a guy in a small room with a chamber pot, it reeks.
Yes, it does. I learned that being a chaos goblin, while doesn't get you the win, you at least win the more fun prize of having the most fun out of everyone.
A bit, yeah.
Where can people find us?
They can find us on Instagram.
At A Pot of Sass.
They can, I was going to say check out. They can visit our Facebook page.
A Pot of Sass and Sarcasm, however you find people on Facebook.
You can check out our Patreon.
Patreon.com/A Pot of Sass and Sarcasm.
And send us an email.
apotofsass@gmail.com. We gotta get a new like rhythm because that's so hard.
Maybe I'll just switch it up all the time on you.
You're so mean. Well, on that note, I really hope that you all keep listening. Thank you so much for listening in the first place. And we hope you stay sassy.
Later.
A noise sounded. Something crashed hard into the heart. Oh my god. I'm so sorry. A noise sounded.
What's there? What is happening?
I'm having a stroke, okay. You're a pilot? Lieutenant Torrance McLeod. Oh gosh, it's an Irish name. Fuck.
I was going to say, this one should be English.
God damn it.